We are now live. Sorry that we were a little bit of late, complicated business, but welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to December. Time really does fly here. Hey, do you guys remember Jaguar? I think they sold cars. I wonder how they're doing. But we are going to find out how they're doing on today's show. Also, the results of Tennessee House District 7's race came in and went to the Republican, and the not at all unstable Democrat candidate Aftyn Behn did not take her loss very graciously. And for our main topic, we'll be discussing fraud in the land of 10,000 lakes and how Governor Walz is teeing up yet another avenue for fraud and abuse. And for Unhinged, we have a little bit of a grab bag of crazy that I think you guys will enjoy. We are going to talk about all of this and more in episode 521 of the In the Tank podcast.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason.
Thank you, President Trump. Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. I am Linnea Lueken, your host. We also have, as always, Jim Lakely, Vice President and Director of Communications at the Heartland Institute. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy belated Thanksgiving to everyone. We were not on last week because Thursday was Thanksgiving. It is a chilly 16 degrees in the northwest suburbs of Chicago today, and I'm not usually one to complain too much about winter. But this is late January, early February temperatures, which is not very fun. If not for Christmas coming, I would be even grumpier than usual, but very glad to be on the show again.
Well, it's a white Christmas if it holds, Jim.
That's true. It's not melting before Christmas, I'll tell you that.
And we also have Sam Karnick, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute. Sam, how are you?
I'm okay, Linnea. I have a bit of a cold, so I thought, well, I need to do something about this. And so I decided to look up some folk remedies because, they're so much cheaper than going to the doctor. So I they basically tell you, do a lot of stinky things, like eat onions and garlic and ginger and horseradish, and then hang onions and garlic around your wherever you're at. So I did that. And, I have the onions and garlic hanging here. I didn't hang ginger and horseradish because it didn't seem to have much effect. It didn't make the house very smelly. Although I did eat a horseradish sandwich, as was highly recommended. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked. I mean, the cold is still there. I still feel, kind of under the weather. And but the one good thing about it is at least we don't have smell-o-vision yet, because I wouldn't even be able to be on the show. So,
Jeez, Sam. Well, I like my mom's idea better. My mom swears by a sniff of tequila to get rid of most cold symptoms. I don't know if it works. I think it kind of does work for the sore throat. But I'll try it anyway. I have a little bit.
I think I'm going to go right now and find out. So
yeah,
I'll be back in about 2 hours.
Okay. All right, you guys, but before we get started, as always, if you want to support the show, you can go to heartland.org/inthetank and donate there. Please also click the thumbs up to like the video, and remember that sharing it also helps to break through some of YouTube's suppression. Even just leaving a comment helps us too. If you're an audio listener, you can help us out by leaving a nice review. All right, you guys, so let's get right into it because we have a lot to look at today, and we are going to go to Unhinged first, which is a little bit of a grab bag. A couple of things to look at for this segment. The first is
Sorry to cut you off. I made that drop. I'm going to play it.
I forgot that we had the drop. Otherwise, I would have given you space for it. I'm sorry.
I'll just
All
take
right.
it. That's all. Yeah.
Our first video here, you guys, is a disturbing video of a man attacking a student from NYU. If we have that.
Sexual abuse for his history of assaults on women. He was released from state prison in September after serving 2 years on a persistent sexual abuse conviction. Rizzo has 16 prior arrests. Court documents revealed that 2 years ago, he groped a 33-year-old woman's breast on Green Street, also here in the Village, and then asked, "Oh, you want more?" Rizzo also has a prior murder charge from 1997. The victim.
Nice. So yeah, we found out that the guy was previously arrested 16 times for violent attacks on women, including once for homicide. And I think every like random act of violence that we've seen on the news lately, especially in the last couple of months, have been committed by multi-time violent offenders. So what's going on here? It seems to be getting worse, not better. And also for the sake of the audience, please give us some grace on our our video call-ups and stuff today because Andy is on PTO, unfortunately for us. So we are handling it. Jim's doing it in the background while also trying to answer my questions. So
do we want to play? Actually, I have a question for you. Do we want to?
Yeah.
We have another video that kind of relates to this. So do you want to comment on this
Sure.
NYU thing first, or go ahead and play that one?
Yeah, please play the next video as well.
Okay.
She was just walking very casually and he came up out of nowhere and like just clocks her in the face.
Exactly 5 months after 2 alleged attacks in the 2700 block of North Clark Street, the man suspected in them now charged. Police say on June 12th, a 40-year-old and 29-year-old woman had been randomly attacked, their assailant at the time getting away. Video shows the alleged suspect, William Livingston, violently elbow one of the unsuspecting victims as she walks by.
I feel really bad for her too. We offered her some like snacks, some water, try to help calm her down, called the cops.
Livingston's 2 new charges are aggravated battery in a public place. It's one of several crimes he was also charged with when he was arrested for allegedly attacking Kathleen Miles of Lake Villa on August 19th. She spoke with WGN while recovering from a broken nose and multiple facial fractures.
There was no way to be prepared for this.
Video obtained by WGN shows the suspect running up from behind Miles, randomly punching her in the face as she was walking along West Washington Street. She says she was knocked out cold and doesn't remember anything. The suspect allegedly watching as she was on the ground bleeding. State Senator Willie Preston, who happened to be in the area, taking off his shirt to try and stop the bleeding before an ambulance crew arrived to help.
All I can think of is it takes so much anger to hit somebody with so much force.
Livingston's record shows he's been arrested in Chicago 26 times dating back to 2012, but continues to be released. Most cases a similar story of random attacks on women. Another victim we spoke with in 2022 was one of 4 people police accused Livingston of attacking within a matter of minutes.
Felt a hand in my pocket and I just like turned my head like that and there's a man just like directly in front of me and he just like punched me in the face.
A similar hope from both victims and concerned citizens that something will
So
change before
these
anyone
guys
else
are
gets hurt.
being arrested multiple times for doing this, and they're getting let back into the public. I mean, at some point, they're going to kill somebody, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, this is a result of, and it's what with the guy who killed Arena in Charlotte on the train. He was arrested. There's so many of these incidents. You kind of mismatch the number of times the perpetrator, the assailant, has been arrested with the actual crime and the victim, almost always on women. I think he was arrested, I think 30 times, maybe he was 29 times. There was another assault that we don't have in this rundown. I believe that person, another high profile assault, that person was arrested, I think 70 times. And look, this is a result of policies put into place by deranged leftist Democrats who run our cities. And the reason they are still in place, frankly, is because the rest of us have maybe not been strong enough in resisting and pushing back at this absolute nonsense. We have allowed this false narrative, and it all started, with this whole thing, defund the police. We're going to be talking about bad Loser Behn, who came a lot closer than she should have to winning a House seat in red state Tennessee, and the red counties around Nashville. Almost got elected to Congress, lost by 8 points, but that's way closer than it should have been. She also wanted to defund the police, and she actually defended, hey, all my peeps out there, she said on social media, who want to burn down, hope you have fun burning down a police station. You got to remember where all this started. This all started with a complete myth. And it was the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement. The complete myth of hands up, don't shoot. Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Hands up, don't shoot never happened. That had nothing to do with why he was shot. He never said that. He never put his hands up. He assaulted a police officer and tried to grab his firearm. That will get your ass shot. No matter where you are, what color you are, or anything. That will get your ass blown away by the police officer, and rightly so. George Floyd died of a drug overdose. The autopsy says so. He was detained. He was deranged and in the throes of fentanyl, and was detained on the ground in a way that maybe contributed to his death, but it was a technique approved by the Minneapolis Police Department, and Derek Chauvin was actually following police procedure. He and everybody who was just around him all went to jail, and nobody else was held accountable. It is from those sorts of, and then streets went on fire, and it became popular to replace policing with social work, or I want to play just the very end of this video. I know it was kind of long already, because this is part of the real sickness in this country. Listen to these two women quoted on this story in WGN in Chicago, and what they say at their laying out all of these assaults, random assaults on women in the streets in public. You can't even walk around the streets of Chicago. You have to have your head on a swivel and maybe, know some kung fu to fight off random attacks. But listen to the end of this.
That something will change before anyone else gets hurt.
I really hope he does get the help he needs.
Whether it's mental health or the justice system or something, I feel he's been failed, and as a result, we've all been failed.
False. This person doesn't need help. He needs to rot for the rest of his life in prison. He hasn't been failed. You two have been failed. Our society has been failed by a system and, frankly, leftist Democrat politicians who are letting criminals back on the street because they care more about the criminal than they do you, period. That's the only way to interpret this. If they cared more about innocent people being killed, assaulted, robbed, all these, then people would be in jail. And the fact of the matter is, study after study shows a very small percentage, actually, of people in society commit these sorts of crimes, and they do it over and over again. That's why almost in every single case, each of these perpetrators has been arrested at least 24 times. And a very small number of percentage of people do these crimes. You lock up just those, and your crime rate would go way down. And our cities, our Democratic Party, the leftists who run these cities are unwilling to do even that. And so they unleash them upon society because they care more, frankly, about those criminals than they do about Linnea or myself or Sam or anybody else.
Yeah, there's no therapy that's gonna. Sorry, I am also losing my voice, but there's no therapy that's going to convince a guy who does something like this to women randomly on the street that it's the wrong thing to do. If all the people around him and stuff haven't been able to convince him so far, like sitting on a couch is not going to help.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
People often claim that that putting people in prison does not prevent crime. That's wrong. If they're in prison, they're not going to be committing those crimes out there. They're not going to be punching women out on the street when they're in prison. So that is why one big reason why you do this. It's not to not just to send a message to other potential criminals, and maybe it isn't even at all for that. It's just for justice. And then also to ensure that that person will not be able to do this, at least for some certain period of time. I think that what we have here is a situation that actually precedes and predates the George Floyd incident and all of the defund the police. What really happened is that beginning in like around the 1980s and especially the 1990s, governments all across the country pushed back very strongly against self-defense. Now, it wasn't uniformly against self-defense, but they pushed back very strongly. And so what you have is if I think people are fairly afraid to defend themselves. They don't want to end up in one of these horrible prisons that we have where it's just an absolutely beastly conditions. They don't want to end up in there. And there's a good chance that you'll end up in there. And the person who did the incident won't. This actually does happen in society these days. So we really need to resume our respect, restore respect for self-defense. We really need to assume that unless the prosecutors can prove that a person had mens rea, that they had intent to harm someone that was not motivated by their actions in the moment, by another person's actions in the moment, then you cannot prosecute them. You shouldn't even be able to prosecute them, let alone convict them. So this is one thing that we really need to get our selves sorted on.
Whoops, you took Sam out.
Sorry, Sam.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad because what you've done is you've made it unsafe for people who are not committing crimes.
Yes.
And refusing to lock someone up for committing a crime is just like punishing everybody else because you get to deal with somebody setting a random stranger on fire in a train, when they shouldn't have had to deal with that in the first place. That person should have never been on the street. Especially if you are, I'm sorry, I keep glancing to the side here, you guys, because we're trying to run this thing. But especially if you are a repeat offender like this. I mean, 70 times, even the 16 times person, you arrest someone the first time for attacking someone on the streets, they should be locked up forever. But like the third time, the fifth time, the seventh time, at what point does this become, something where, I don't know, somebody's got to be held accountable in addition at this point to the actual criminal, because it's worse than negligent to be having these guys running around on the streets like this.
It should happen on the first time, because the first time it's probably not the first time they did it.
Sam remembers, because we were both in public policy at this time in the 1990s. The three strikes law. You can find videos of Joe Biden, one of the most prominent Democrats of the 1990s, going on and on and on about crime in our cities and 3 strikes you're out. I mean, he's the one who wrote took credit for writing the drug bill that made criminalized crack more than powder cocaine and that whole stupid controversy. But there was a time when Democrats were tough on crime that they supported 3 strikes and you're out laws, that if you commit your third felony, you're going to jail for the rest of your life. You have proven after 3 felonies that you should be removed from society. You cannot live with the rest of us who want to live our lives in safety and peace. 3 felonies and you're done. Those immediately started getting undermined by judges. For instance, they would say, well, this guy, this is his 5th arrest, but we're going to make this felony a misdemeanor so that he doesn't get put in jail for the rest of his life. And so it was beginning to be undermined right away. And now you can't find any politician, any Democrat certainly, who would ever advocate for a 3 strikes and you're outlaw. But if Sam had his way, it'd be 1 strike and you're out. And that's it. But the purpose the purpose of our jails and the criminal justice system is to protect the innocent and to protect the rest of us from people who, if let out, proven time and again, will continue to commit crimes. And often, as we've seen, they get it escalates in its violence and seriousness the more times they are let out of jail. There needs to be consequences for this. But Linnea, I know you've seen a lot of this. You know, you troll on, you scroll on X just like me. I know, but there's been a lot of serious talk, and I think it's time to have that kind of a talk. Of it's something has to be done very carefully, I think. But there should be some consequences when judges completely throw out common sense, the meaning of statutes and the purpose of the justice system, and continually release violent criminals back on the streets. A lot of and again, another great idea from the left and the Democrats, the whole no cash bail system. 20 years ago, Joe Biden wants to throw in jail everybody who has a rolled up joint in the front pocket of his jeans. And now we have Democrats all over the country going no cash bail for violent offenders. And we didn't, but the people of New York just elected such a maniac as mayor of New York City. So, something needs to be done. There needs to be accountability. I don't understand why Republicans could be so unpopular right now when all they really need to do is run on crime. It's worked in the past, and it needs to be done. We need public policy that keeps these monsters locked up.
Yeah, well, besides the fact that Jim almost slipped up and accused me of trolling on Twitter, which
no.
I would never
scrolling.
I would never troll.
No, you don't do that.
But no, you're absolutely right. I think it does. We do need to find some kind of a solution to this. Maybe the Heartland Institute, we can put our think tank heads together and come up with a way to hold some of these judges responsible without trampling on our system or anything too badly.
Well, speaking of crime, I mean, I maybe find it put in the show notes, but we did do a study in the wake of Black Lives Matter, during the whole Black Lives Matter craze, that about police shootings and race. I'm gonna have to find that, but shocker, the data did not actually back up the narrative of Black Lives Matter.
Going back to the idea about the 3 strikes and you're out, that really is very related to what Linnea said earlier, which is that once you've proven that you cannot be repaired, that you cannot live in society, only crazy people or very sinister and evil people would put you back into society. The question we need to ask ourselves is, which is it? Is it both? Is it one or the other? I think it's both, but mostly sinister.
Yeah, the term that I used before the show started, when I saw the reaction of those women to, what should happen to their, attackers, and they're like, I hope they get the help they need. That's a very nice thing to say, but I think part of this, at least from their perspective, isn't like being sinister that they might want to give them another chance. I think it's genuine naivete, right? I think it's misplaced maternal instinct or something.
You're right. As a policy matter, it's sinister and evil in my view. But so are you saying basically, okay, these women are somewhat disturbed to have that kind of point of view?
They live in downtown Chicago. I don't know what. No, but no, I'm not saying that they're disturbed necessarily, but I'm just saying that, it's misplaced empathy. They're the ones who are the victims. He's not a victim. He wasn't the one who was failed. They were failed, as Jim said. So yeah, but I didn't want to spend too long dwelling on this one, you guys. I had a couple other things I wanted to touch on in the segment, but we're going to skip them because I want to get to our main topics here today. Remember Jaguar? Jaguar really stepped in it, trying to be very trendy and whittle down their customer base, trying to be like a boutique LA, Miami crowd type of company rather than the high-end heritage luxury company they used to be. Autocar reports that Jaguar Land Rover has canned the guy who was responsible for the recent unpopular redesigns and rebranding. JLR has axed design boss Jerry McGovern. Sources inside the firm have told Autocar and Autocar India. Autocar India's source suggested McGovern was escorted out of the office, although the exact details as to why are not yet known. When approached, a spokesperson for JLR replied, "No comment." It brings an end to a 21-year career at JLR for McGovern that has been filled with highlights, Autocar says. And I just wanted to read this because Autocar is kind of simping for McGovern for some reason. They said the Coventry-born designer is responsible for the modern-day reinvention of the Defender, which I guess some people like. I don't like it. Helping to keep the four-car Range Rover lineup ever popular and reinventing Jaguar for its transition into an electric-only car maker, which includes creating the highly controversial Type Double Aught concept. He was also key in JLR's 2021 Reimagine strategy. In the immortal words, you guys, of Jeremy Clarkson. Oh no. Anyway. It's actually not clear if his disaster of a rebrand idea was like what got him fired here. They're not saying anything about it. Apparently, and as I was doing some digging on this, he's pretty famous for being like a total jerk to work with. Very high on his own supply. And rumors are floating in certain circles in like car forums and stuff that there was some office indiscretion involved in his firing. So I don't know, but I wanted to hear what your thoughts were on this one. Is this well-deserved if he was being canned for his design ideas? Let's call them. I don't really know. I think it's terrible, but
he certainly deserved to be canned for the absolute ruining of a great brand. Even though Jaguars never really actually operated very well, they were lovely cars. So it's like, well, let's get rid of the one thing that people like about Jaguars, and then everybody will want them. It was a complete insanity on his part, and I think it is kind of emblematic of this whole idea of giving people a million chances. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. All right, you're fired. You're fired. It should have happened right then. And that's it. Give a person a million chances and they will do worse and worse things until they're murdering dozens of people a day. It's just, and that's the equivalent of what he's done aesthetically and in terms of automotive technology.
Yeah, I can just picture how those meetings went. He thinks he's being really clever and cool, and I'm sure he got lots of accolades from his millennial and Gen Z,
did they clap like this?
Younger design people. No, they clap like this.
No, up twinkles.
Because clapping can be triggering and frightening, but snaps are okay. Yeah,
I'm going to keep playing this Jaguar ad on a loop for everybody, just to
thanks, Jim.
because we may never get a chance to play it again. But yeah, I mean, as they say, the wages of woke means you go broke. It's mind-boggling to me, and we've covered this I think 3 times now. The destruction of Jaguar and the timing of this. This came out, I think, was last year. It came out after the election, I think in December of 2024. So it was perfectly timed for the cultural and vibe shift, and not just in America but in the world. But just even pausing it right there, just the logo for Jaguar. It used to be an iconic logo of the jumping Jaguar and very unique font for their styling. And then they go to this Jaguar font could be it could be a tech company. This could be Google's new font.
It looks like a perfume to me.
Sense. Yeah, it does look like a perfume.
Yeah, it does look like a perfume. Yeah, well, and this is part of it too, is that we're not like a car guy show or anything. But from what I understand, Jaguar has been kind of screwing over their dealerships and stuff too for a long time. So a lot of dealerships were working on already cutting ties with them and only selling Land Rover from that. So it's an Indian company that owns both Jaguar, Land Rover, and a couple other companies. But,
ironically, it's called Tata. Tata.
It's called Tata. But they, they've been having problems, manufacturing enough and sending dealerships what they promise and stuff like that for a while now. And so a lot of dealerships were dropping Jaguar before this even happened. And then so Jaguar at the beginning of the year in 2024 basically said, we're just not going to make cars at all for a year. And we're going to see what happens. They sold 49 cars the first quarter of that year in Europe, which is crazy. And they just stopped making them. And they said, we're going to put everything behind this all electric rebranding. And it really didn't go over very well. And all electric was foolish to begin with anyway, not just because of the kinds of arguments that we make, right? But because other car companies that put their money into like hybrids and stuff are actually doing fairly well in that department, because people tend to kind of like hybrids. They don't like all electric, but they do kind of like the hybrid. So it's just been a total disaster. So fun stuff. I didn't want to spend too much time on this one, but I wanted to do a little bit of I guess you would say like a gloating a gloating moment that someone's
One more
actually...
visit to the Jelly of the Month Club, basically.
Yes, exactly.
No, we are going to leave this subject because I ran it on too long in that first topic area, but I did find those videos and I found it very infuriating. But you make the good point about the electric vehicles. If not putting the ad aside and the rebrand and all that stuff, the fact that Jaguar under his leadership decided we're going to go all electric now, we're not going to make any more internal combustion engine vehicles anymore, we're going to be an all electric car company, was so dumb. And I think it's a special kind of dumb, an indoctrinated kind of dumb, that you have convinced yourself, despite all evidence in the marketplace and all of your experience in the automotive industry, that a couple of government mandates by a temporary president is going to result in a permanent transition into electric powered vehicles. And you're going to do that with your luxury brand, which is not a vehicle anybody really needs. So instead of even just making two kinds of cars who can still afford, when gas is $40 a gallon, you can still afford it if you own a Jaguar because you're already rich. Instead, we're going to go all electric. And it was that, for that alone, he deserved to be canned. And good luck to Jaguar. You once great brand, now in the dark.
All electric as the really bad business decision. They were listening to State Street and all those guys, and they were saying, oh, this is going to be the future. The World Economic Forum said that everything's going to be electric in like 5 years, so we're going to put all of our money behind that. They were totally wrong. Not only that, but they made it ugly to boot. And that is the most offensive part, in my opinion. All right. So, your classic Jaguar might be worth a lot more nowadays because of how terrible the company has been doing lately. But it's pretty hard to stack Jags as a long-term investment. It'd probably be a lot easier to diversify with precious metals. And so we have a sponsor for you. All right, here we go. All right, a lot of people in the conservative, libertarian, and even just what I love, the prepper space, will hit you with ads for buying precious metals. They're not wrong that they're a good investment, but you want to be careful about who you buy your metals from. At In the Tank, we trust Advisor Metals over all of the other guys, and that's because we know that the person running the place is the best of the best. A great friend of Liberty, Ira Bershatsky owns and is the managing member of Advisor Metals. He has decades of experience in precious metals and is the only person in the physical precious metals industry who has the Commodities Futures Trading Commission federal registration. What does that mean for you? Well, it means everything that Ira or a member of his team says to you has to be factual. So there's no sketchy sales pitch or bait and switch. Ira is held to the highest ethical standards, and there is full transparency, which is way too lacking in other places nowadays. If you want to diversify your investment portfolio and your savings, if you're planning for retirement and are concerned about economic uncertainty, if you want a tangible asset that is better than a Jaguar, that is easy to buy and sell, you can secure your assets with a wide range of physical precious metals by getting in touch with our friend Ira at Advisor Metals. He is going to make it very easy for you. Please visit climaterealismshow.com/metals, and you can leave your information for Ira and get started with investing in precious metals and expand your current portfolio. Again, climaterealismshow.com/metals. And when you talk to Ira, don't forget to tell him that we sent you. That helps us, as you're helping your financial future by diversifying with precious metals from Advisor Metals. Okay. Thank you very much. Please do go there, you guys, because IRA really is really great and very nice to us for sponsoring us. Okay, so our next topic here, you guys, bad Loser Behn. For those not familiar with Aftyn Behn, she's gained some notoriety for being a lot of bit dramatic and pretty classless, to say the least. She complains about the prayer groups in the legislature. She supports burning down police stations, which is kind of a big one. She thinks marriage is patriarchal. Sororities are white supremacist. And she's been on video literally screaming her head off while being dragged out of Governor Lee's office for busting into a private meeting. The Western Journal covers her reaction to losing the recent election. They write, "The whole point of winning, among other things, is that you get to dictate terms. The loser generally has the terms dictated to them. Nobody seems to have bothered to tell Democratic Tennessee Representative Aftyn Behn that. On Tuesday, Behn showed that she doesn't understand the simple rules of power dynamics by telling her supporters, after she lost, that she used her concession call with victorious GOP candidate Matt Van Epps to lecture him about Obamacare. She said, 'I called the congressman-elect and I had one question for him. What will define what happens next? Do not let the Affordable Care Act subsidies expire. Do not raise healthcare costs for working families in Tennessee.'" And I want to be clear on two reasons why this is not appropriate. Aside from the obvious optics of being the loser and lecturing the winner about his priorities, first, this wasn't a new topic for Behn, who tried to reconcile her radical beliefs with the buzzword of affordability by doubling down on the necessity of funding Obamacare subsidies for the foreseeable future without any off-ramp from the disastrous care program. And second, while it pales in comparison to Trump's victory in the 7th Congressional District 2 years ago, let's just be clear. 9 points is not a moral victory. It's not a mandate for change that doesn't flip a seat. And I wanted to bring this little section here up, you guys, because it was kind of the cherry on top of the hysteria following elections this year. Lots of doom and gloom peddling. Everyone just wants to find, like, nobody even notices that it's not all doom clouds and darkness. Instead of looking for a silver lining, they're saying that there is no silver lining. This is a disaster. But it's really not. But look, here, Tennessee really dodged a bullet, didn't they, Sam?
They sure did. It's interesting, though, because I think it's emblematic of this whole system we seem to have developed where maybe it's not a system. Systems actually have some purpose and plan to them. But this whole sort of miasma that we've developed where people just aren't held responsible for their actions. And your speech is an action. And the crazy, dumb things that she said should have disqualified her for even nomination in a party that is of the left. She's just a crazy crank. And she, I would say that she doesn't make Marjorie Taylor Greene look good. That would be very difficult to do. But she provides a lot of competition over there.
What is it with our female representatives? I just don't understand. She said something. I saw one of her clips on Twitter. She was standing in front of the House of Representatives, and she said something along the lines of, like, I was talking to my therapist, and I told him about a dream that I had where I stood in front of a room of women and told them, I don't want to be a mother. I want power. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Like, all right, you shouldn't say that kind of thing out loud to people, but okay.
Well, I'm glad she says it out loud to people. And frankly, what's disturbing? So, like, I think Trump won that district by 20 points in the 2024 election. And what was the number there? Was it ended up being 9-point victory for the
9.
Yeah, right. So 9 points. So hey, that cut in more than half, and that is a little troubling. Again, it's an off-year election. Don't want to read too much into it. But this is something I think Matt Walsh said the other day. That phrase, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. the Democratic voters are telling us who they are, and I think it's time we come to grips with it and believe them, that they support absolute lunatics like Aftyn Behn. She said she had on the public record so many crazy statements that would have been absolutely disqualifying instantly for anybody of any party as few as 5 years ago. When you're running for Congress and you are on the record and then you defend it constantly that you hate the city of Nashville, you hate the people in your own district, and you come within 9 points of winning in a 20 plus point red district, that tells me, and I think it was the point Matt Walsh was making, is that the Democratic Party voter right now is as unhinged as Aftyn Behn and as Zohran Mamdani. And those are the people that are going to come out and vote in the midterm elections. And they are going to, on purpose and with glee, vote for absolute complete lunatics to be taking over our government and setting public policy. So that's what keeps me up at night sometimes, not anything else.
Well, and it's funny to me too, and the Sam posted something in the private chat, a good link to an article about Trump's position on his current position on healthcare stuff, but her calling up her opponent who beat her to and so his mission is the one that won the voters. So she does not get to be dictating terms and does not get to be saying, well, you should actually uphold my mission because for some reason, I didn't get the votes to win. So for some reason, that means you should do what I want you to do anyway. I don't know. It's the weirdest reasoning.
You can put that in. We should have used that for Unhinged. That really is an unhinged way to think about election results.
It is kind of unhinged. We could have done that and just combined the whole thing. But it's interesting too because Trump's been trying really hard to figure out, or at least he is in flux, trying to figure out how to approach the healthcare issue because it has become such a quagmire. You don't want to just yank people's care away from them after they've gotten used to it or whatever, but you do have to get rid of this dang Obamacare. And Trump seems to be saying on Truth Social, he posted, the only healthcare I'll support or approve is sending the money directly back to the people with nothing going to the big, fat, rich insurance companies who have made trillions of dollars and ripped off America long enough. The people will be allowed to negotiate and buy their own much better insurance. Power to the people. Congress, do not waste your time and energy on anything else. This is the only way to have great healthcare in America. Get it done now. So Sam, you sent this to us as just like a little microcosm here of the negotiations, I guess, that are going on. And I don't know if this is Trump expressing his full and total belief in what should happen, or if he's doing that thing where he says something a little bit to the right, or not to the right as in left-right politics, but like a little bit far afield of what he actually is going for in hopes that the negotiation brings him to where he wants to be. But what do you think?
I think that is exactly what he's doing. However, he certainly would. I think he certainly would like to get what we're talking about, and that is a simple approach, which is that cash is king. That cash holds people. Boy, accountability is real, and responsibility is really the theme here today, because cash holds people accountable. If you know what you're spending, you can do a lot better job of making good choices about it. And if the customer knows what they're spending on you as a provider, likewise, you become much more efficient that way. The way to cut costs of healthcare is to do the opposite of what pushed them up, which was we've increased demand insanely since 1965, when we created Medicaid and Medicare and the like. And we've been divorcing the customer from the payment. And so what you do is now you just buy prepaid care. Well, that's what Medicaid and Medicare did. They initiated that whole process of moving healthcare from being a way of dealing with an emergency that could impoverish you and so to insure yourself against that emergency, to just prepaid care. But if it's prepaid care, you've already paid it, so you'll use as much as you can. And if you're using as much as you can, what are you doing? You're demanding. And if you're demanding, what are you doing? You're raising prices. So that the only way to get away from this is to restore the payment by the person who's actually getting the service. And that's what Trump was saying. And the fact that he was doing that is, to me, a very big deal. It's very important. And if we can start people thinking along those lines, then we can actually start to make positive changes. And we outline in Anne-Marie Schieber, who's our editor of Healthcare News at the Heartland Institute. Please, people, send donations to us for that fabulous newspaper. But Anne and I put this piece together, and we named some of the reforms that can be done. In fact, and we certainly alluded to the whole variety that is out there. But the key is that you've got to get the customer, who is the patient, you've got to get them recognizing what they're paying for. And once that happens, you will see prices come down. The government created this problem. And the only way to fix it is to change what the government has done and get these get a system actually, and not just a mess. Get a system that makes sense. And that's what that article is all about.
Yeah, I think all in all, the crazy thing about, Behns demanding that he keeps Obamacare, basically, or supports keeping Obamacare, is that Obamacare isn't even popular on the left anymore. So it's just getting worse and worse. And you know what else is getting worse and worse? Minnesota. So it is fraud all the way down in the land of 10,000 lakes. It's been a very bad week for Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Remember when he was going to be vice president? So that's another dodged bullet for all of us. Breitbart reports hundreds of Minnesota government staffers say that Governor Tim Walz hid Somali fraud and attacked whistleblowers. Nearly 500 employees in Minnesota's state government say Democratic Governor Tim Walz ignored their constant warnings about massive fraud by Somalis of the state's aid programs. The staffers in the state's Department of Health Services also say that Walz retaliated against them for exposing the corruption. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for massive fraud in Minnesota, the group said in a November 29th Twitter post. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response. They added, Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. They also allege that Walz disempowered the Office of the Legislative Auditor to allow the fraud to continue freely. It is endemic across all of Minnesota's welfare and aid programs, not just its Department of Human Services. One case was an organization called Feeding Our Future, run by a group of Minneapolis area Somali migrants. Prosecutors say that the organizers bilked $250 million from the state in child food assistance funding. In another case, tens of millions were stolen from Minnesota's autism treatment program, more than $550 million stolen from the state's coronavirus pandemic relief program. And there's another Feeding Our Future fraud case where more than $250 million in pandemic-era state aid for hungry children was stolen by members of the Somali community. Well, it's hard to say, or hard to know what to say to all that, because it's mind-blowing. The governor is supposed to care about all of his constituents, not preferentially. And, the craziest part about this, Sam, is that these migrants were given a fair, a safe home, then at least safer than the one that they left, by some of the nicest people on earth who are Minnesotans. So what's going on here? And why would Tim Walz be covering for it?
Well, what's going on here is they're getting punched in the head and saying, I hope something good happens to the person who punched me in the head. And that's what they keep doing. And until you recognize that, I think we need to go back to the 18th century here for just a moment, okay, and go to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the French philosopher. I'm sure Linnea is. Are you grooving on this or grokking or something, Linnea? Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who posited that, and he's sort of the inventor of modern liberalism, and he posited that human beings are born good, that they're naturally good at birth, and society corrupts them. So the premise here that you see in Minnesota is that, well, everybody in the world is basically good, and if you bring them to a nice place like Minnesota, they'll act like Minnesotans. Well, Rousseau was wrong. He was 100% wrong. He was the opposite of what's real. And Minnesota is just proving that again. If you invite people to commit fraud, they're going to do it. Walz made a really great straw man there saying, I hate the fact that these Republicans are saying that everybody in Minnesota is a cheater and a thief. Nobody said that. Nobody said that everybody is, but they did say that these people are, and it seems to be very accurate. So what happens here is that you've got, again, no accountability, no responsibility, and it's not just the thieves. It's the governor himself. At some point, you're going to get French Revolution type action going on if you don't restore some sense of justice. When your premises are that we do what we want and you get in line and say you like it and say 2 + 2 = 5, if you just keep doing that, eventually you're going to get into some serious trouble, especially when you have a country that has the Second Amendment like ours does. I'm sorry, but this is not a trivial matter. That people stealing, $250 million here, $500 million there. That's outrageous. And think of that money went to people in Somalia.
Well,
we all can have the nicest thoughts about people in Somalia and how they have their needs and so forth. But if anybody wants to support them, it should be done voluntarily. It shouldn't be done through a government program where theft is neglected. This is outrageous. I mean, it's like our country is developing into one big crime syndicate. And we just let it all happen. That cannot last. That cannot stay. And it's not going to. So there's two ways it's going to change. Either it's going to get bad enough that there's absolute, let's say, counteraction of a similar sort, or people like Tim Walz are going to get kicked out by the people who put them in the first place, and slightly more reasonable people will be substituted for them. That's the only way to do it.
Look, I'm not going to go. Did you go back to the 18th century, Sam? Was that Rousseau
Yes.
or Richelieu? Yeah, I'm not going to go back to the 18th century. I'm going to go back to the 1990s. Let's remember why we're even here. Why, frankly, let's go back to why there are 100,000 Somalis all gathered together in Minneapolis, of all places. And it was because, Quentin Tarantino actually released his top 10 movies of the 21st century. Number 1 on his list was Black Hawk Down. What was Black Hawk Down about? It was about our militarized humanitarian mission in Mogadishu. And why did we send the military to Mogadishu? Because the food that we were sending there, it reminds me of that classic Saturday Night Live skit too, with Phil Hartman as Bill Clinton in the McDonald's. Half of the people now, 10 people remember that one. It's one of the classics. Anyway, the reason we were in Somalia in Mogadishu to begin with is because we were sending food aid over there, and it was being stolen by warlords, because that is the way society works in Somalia. And so R.N. McIntyre, who is a channel I know that Linnea and I enjoy here on YouTube from The Blaze, he's used this term a lot, and I love it. He says, America does not have magic soil. Somebody does not automatically become an American and share our values just because they put their foot or put in their hand the soil of Minnesota or Illinois or New Jersey or anything else. That a country is a country because of the values that it fosters and basically creates for the society as a whole. And when you bring in people that do not share those values, they do not magically become non-fraudsters when they come from a fraudster country. They don't magically not become that just because they're standing in Minnesota and not Mogadishu. We've said it a lot on this podcast. You get, as a society, you get what you incentivize and you prevent what you punish. And the welfare system in this country, especially in Minnesota, overseen with the fraud going on, and Tim Walz knew about it. We incentivize fraud. And the excuse from the Somali community in Minnesota is basically, what do you expect? What do you expect us to do? The fraud is so easy to commit. How are we not going to do that?
Yeah, there's been some pretty disgusting things on other crimes that have been given the same kind of shrug of the shoulders and like, well, it's their culture, so they haven't assimilated, blah blah blah. It's just not. Yeah, it's gross. But it's what's amazing to me is that basically none of these people, from what I understand, were vetted coming in. So to think that, you're going to let in 100,000 people from a country that was torn apart in war and crime and some of the most like horrifying human rights and like just abuses and stuff that you could possibly imagine, and just say, we're going to let a whole bunch of them over here, and imagine that some of the, like a lot of the bad ones would want to come over here too and sneak in and be part of the very generous setup that Minnesota welcomed them to. It's crazy. And we don't have to. It's very nice of the United States to take on refugees from war-torn countries and stuff. It's an extremely nice thing to do, like generous thing to do. We don't have to be doing that. And if we keep getting bitten for it, then we shouldn't just keep doing it. We absolutely should not. I wanted to bring up that Tim Walz is very excited about a new new family medical leave program that he says will give benefits to undocumented workers, which is fun. And he used the word, he is excited about it. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced the state's family and medical leave program, alerting Minnesotans to the enrollment period for anyone who had a child in 2025, including illegal immigrants. During a press conference, Tim Walz praised the program, saying that he was excited about it. It allows people to take time off for illness or for new baby bonding time with a maximum of 20 weeks per year total. The program is funded by an increase in payroll taxes to be paid by employees and employers and was passed into law in 2023. The Minnesota Chamber of Commerce states that almost all employers in Minnesota are required to participate. Therefore, most people who work in Minnesota, whether it's full-time, part-time, temp work, hourly, seasonally, or more than one job, are covered. Seasonally. I just have to pause there for a second. You are covered for paternity leave, maternity leave, if you are a seasonal worker. That's crazy. Undocumented workers, that's crazy. Youth workers, that's unfortunate. And new workers are also covered. Jim, you had a really good critique of this plan for the remote worker angle. Could you articulate that for our audience here?
Yeah, well, I'll try. So the law is written, and Tim Walz is so proud of it. It's like, so a remote worker is also covered. So let's say you work, let's say you're a laptop jockey and you live in Minneapolis and you're working for a company where you code or you write or you manage people via email, and you have a company in Illinois, say, and we need somebody to do that kind of work for us. But I'm not going to hire somebody from Minnesota now, but this law in place, because what will happen is that even though my business is not located in Minnesota, because I've hired somebody who does at least 50% of their work while residing in Minnesota, they are covered by this law. So they could get basically a doctor's note that says I have to take care of a sick relative, or I'm on maternity leave, and then this person is going to be gone for 5 months. So now I have to go find another person. And so the whole idea, actually, just from the basics of the law, that your payroll taxes are now more expensive in Minnesota, so it's now become a lot more expensive to hire and start a business in Minnesota. But even though that's supposedly covered and it will be taken advantage of, and it'll go 100 times over budget. But now I have to now hire a person to replace that person that I just hired in Minnesota for the next 5 months. And I have to pay that person. I am definitely now not hiring anybody in Minnesota. And then once I can fire this person, and who knows how legal that will be, when they come back to work after 5 months, I have to fire the person. I have to let go of the person I brought in to replace this person. No matter how good this person is, I have to get rid of them and bring back this person who just abandoned me for 5 months. I am never hiring anybody in Minnesota to do any remote work ever. Never, ever, ever, as long as this law is in place. So it's basically the never hire anybody in Minnesota to do remote work act of 2025, because you would be an absolute idiot for hiring anybody. And also this law, if you had a choice between hiring somebody remote or not, who is a young single man or a 31-year-old married woman, who would you hire if you wanted to make sure that this person stayed in the job? Because maternity leave of 5 months is a lot, and it would be mandatory.
Oh, but don't worry, Jim. It's not just for the mother. It's for the father too.
Oh, that's right. It is for the father too. Again, I said single. I would hire nothing but 24-year-old single men who don't date and just play video games all day. That would be the safest hire of all in Minnesota.
That's you just tying this to the fraud issue, though. This is so obviously ripe for fraud, though. Say you're a seasonal employee, and you all of a sudden claim that you have to take paternity leave or maternity leave for 20 weeks during your seasonal job. You're just getting paid to not work that whole time.
Absolutely right. But you're not getting paid not to work. You know why? Because this law is going to work just like minimum wage laws, which is it will just end employment at the margin. So if you're not somebody that is absolutely critical to an operation that is somehow absolutely critical to people in Minnesota who will put up money for it, then you're done. You're out. You're not going to be working. So what happens here is that if you look at how minimum wage laws work, the kids in high school, for example, they can't get jobs anymore. And people complain about, well, people in college, they should be working. They should support themselves and pay their tuition by working. You can't get jobs. You can't get jobs unless you're some sort of really critical, important worker who brings a whole lot to the table. So what this does is it makes it extremely expensive and extremely risky to hire people. Well, guess what? If you cannot hire people, you can't have an operation. You can't have a business. You need human beings to do that. We can talk about AI all you want. You need human beings. So what's going to happen is that the economy of Minnesota is going to shrink and shrink and shrink, and people are going to leave and leave and leave, and Iowa and Wyoming and North Dakota will become more populous, and Minnesota will just turn into, guess what? Mogadishu.
Wyoming is full. No, nobody's allowed to move to Wyoming.
Sorry, Linnea.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you. So, we got a little bit into the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis in the Somali community. And it's when the New York Times is finally forced to write the story and about the Somali community fraud, broad fraud. And we're talking $1 billion at least. That's the tip of the iceberg. And their scams were not even that creative. They were basically, when the law says that you can set up a nonprofit or a corporation and collect money from the government to service autistic children or distribute food, and the state is completely uninterested in making sure that you're an actual organization that actually exists and actually does things and not just a complete scam, it's going to continue to grow. And that's exactly what happened with the Somali scams in Minneapolis. So I'm going to suggest a great way to scam this system. And I know I'm not going to be giving the scammers in Minnesota any ideas, because they've already thought about this and 5 things better than it. But under this law, this would be a fantastic way to scam it. So you get hired because it applies to part-time people, right? So apply to a place, get a job part-time. After 2 weeks, say, get a note from your doctor, and they can be in on the scam, saying that I need to take care of a sick relative. Can we see a picture of the sick relative? No, you can't. That would be invasive of my privacy. But here's the note from the doctor. And so now I get 5 months of paid leave. Thank you very much. After you get that, you walk over down the street and get another job. And then you do the same thing every 2 weeks. You could be being paid for unlimited numbers of jobs that you don't actually have to go for. And if you time it right, you never have to go to work, and you make more money than if you had actually one job. I guarantee you that is how this is going to be scammed, and there's going to be nobody to be able to stop.
No.
What's that?
I said, slow down, Jim. I'm taking notes.
Okay. I'll put it on.
But that's why no one will get hired, and business will just evaporate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why work when scamming the system is this easy? And again, this is not to say that people don't need and deserve and require time off to take care of a sick spouse or mother, or obviously every business has maternity leave of different sizes and different arrangements. But it's the idea that it's a one size fit all, and it's mandatory for every business to do it exactly this way. And it doesn't matter. We're going to charge you. We're going to tax you, but we will handle all the money. Don't you worry, because we're the state, and we know what we're doing. People should be able to enter into voluntary arrangements with their employers in this way. There's an incentive for employers to offer good benefits in order to attract and keep the best workers. That's an expensive endeavor for businesses, but it's worth it if they get the right talent. When you take all of that incentive away and actually incentivize fraud, you're going to get fraud on a massive scale, and it's guaranteed to happen in this case.
I still kind of can't get over, though, how, the report from employees at the state are saying that they tried to blow the whistle on this. They were saying, hey, all this paperwork is wrong. These people haven't actually proved that these businesses exist. Should we be checking on this? And Tim Walz in his office is threatening people with firing them, threatening them who knows what other ways. They didn't give too many specifics in their report, in their whistleblowing reports, to the point where 500 state employees have come forward to say that they've witnessed this. I think that's probably grounds for some kind of a real investigation, right? And to get Tim Walz taken out of office, I would think.
Impeachment at a minimum, and criminal investigation at the very least.
If we didn't live in crazy town, which
right, it's torches and pitchforks time over there.
Absolutely. Yep. Doug Troyer, one of our viewers, our frequent viewers here, says already has. Fraud is going to happen, but when you don't suppress it, it grows, like Sam says. And then Chris Nisbet suggests that Jim can set himself up as a benefit consultant. that would be a pretty good gig there. Well,
I like my gig right now. This is good. Although, I should do that in Minnesota and then just take my 5 months. You know what? Forget it. I'll work.
Don't give it away. Who knows who's watching this very important show. And unfortunately, you guys, I think that's all we've got for you today. So we only went 13 minutes over this time instead of almost 40 minutes over. So you're welcome. But also, thank you guys, everyone, for your attention to all of these matters. Remember that we are live every single week on Thursdays at noon Central on Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I still keep accidentally calling it Twitter years later. Jim, what do you have for the audience today?
Be sure to come back to this very bat channel at the very same bat time for the Climate Realism Show tomorrow, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have a fantastic show. I'll be hosting, and Linnea will be speaking.
Sam?
Yes, please check out my article at spectator.org, and also go to the Heartland Institute website for all kinds of fantastic information, and my Substack, stkarnick.substack.com.
Awesome. For audio listeners, please rate us well on whatever service you're using and leave a review too, even if it's just a "I like this show, good job, guys" kind of comment. It doesn't have to be long. It helps us out a lot. Thank you so much to two of our usual panelists here. I'm sorry that Chris wasn't here this week, you guys. And also to our wonderful viewers. We will see you all again next week.
Oh, hold your horses. I think it's time for a gym rant. Someone get me some milk and cookies. Oh, hold